Hey y'all, who dat and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak, and this is Inside Black and Gold, another preview edition. Yes, we're still doing it for now. We'll have some discussions over the bye week about what makes the most sense in terms of how we're going to get you episodes the rest of the way. We will get you episodes the rest of the way. They just may not be in this kind of format that we've fallen into over the first 10 weeks of the season. For now, we're going to keep doing it. So we're going to get you ready for week 10. Saints are 1-8. 1-8. Ugh. This just sounds gross to say, but that's where we are. They're going to face the Carolina Panthers, a team that knows a thing or two about being in the 1-8 range, but they're 5-4 and they're feeling good about themselves. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to get through the injury report for both teams as we do. Not a ton to keep track of, but a few things to monitor. So we'll go through that in the first segment. We'll get through our Brees and stuff segment as we do. Some big news for the Brees man. We'll talk about that and how it occurred, which is kind of fascinating, all things considered. Then we're going to bring on Desmond Johnson, host of Believing Carolina Panthers. We've had him on before. He hosts a great podcast with Jonathan Stewart. He's in a good mood these days, so just felt right to bring him back so we could brag a little bit. So we'll hear from him, and then final segment, we will break down X factors as we do. I also want to talk about something that's bugging me about where the Saints are and how they got here and misconceptions as to why exactly they're in the predicament that they are in. And don't get yourself, because it is quite a predicament. We're only halfway done with the season, and there's not a lot of good left to happen, or at least it doesn't feel like there's a lot of good left to happen. Although, as I learned from the Pelicans the last two nights, all it takes is one, right? You can have all the negativity in the world. You go out and you play well and you win a game, and suddenly things start to feel different. And that's, if you're the Saints, what you have to do. Like, I get it. You want the number one overall pick. I get it. Probably better off losing. You got to go find a way to win some games if you want this thing to feel different. Because here's the thing. You're going to get to the end of the season and it's going to feel gross. But if you can at least point to something and say, this is better, this is better, this is better, you can build on this, you can build on this, that gross feeling will still have to be replaced with hope. Because as I learned from Star Wars, rebellions are built on hope. That's a really lame thing to say, and I'm sad that I said it. But that's really where you are. Like, in order for change to happen, in order for teams to turn things around, you have to build hope, optimism, confidence somewhere. And why not in Carolina? Last year we saw, as Colin Saunders put it, the Continental Doo-Doo Bowl. So, hey, can't get worse than that, right? Anyways, who dat? Go Saints. We will be right back. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here, coming at you solo for now, ahead of the Saints facing off with the Carolina Panthers, the upstart Carolina Panthers, winners of 4 of their last 5 games. They are 5-4 on the season. Things are finally looking up for the Panthers, all while they are looking straight down for the New Orleans Saints, who have won 1 game. They lost 4 to start. They won a game. Now they've lost 4 again. Maybe, hey, history repeats itself. This is the time. Maybe the Saints are going to win 1 of every 5 games for the rest of time, and we'll get to talk about it. But first things first, let's go through the injury report for the week. No real surprises for the Saints as I flash it up to my left here. The only DMP both days of practice as we sit here and record this podcast, Taliese Fuaga, seen him walking around in a boot. He's dealing with that ankle injury. It's a high ankle sprain. Don't expect him to even be in consideration to play. And the question is going to be, hey, you got a bye week next week. Is he able to kind of beat the trend line of these injuries, which is typically 4 to 6 weeks? But we did see Cesar Ruiz come back in 2 weeks and play, so it is possible. Jack Stoll, who's also on the injury report with a high ankle sprain, he's been limited in practice each of the last 2 days. So clearly he's a little ahead of that schedule. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's the big injury. With Tally not out there, expect Awesome Richards to get the start, and we'll see how that goes. It wasn't pretty when he was out there in week 3 against the Seahawks, but nothing was pretty in week 3 against the Seahawks. So hopefully he can have a better performance. Hopefully his offensive line can have a better performance. You traded Trevor Penning to the Chargers. Rashid Shaheed is now with the Seahawks. Dylan Radin is going to be your starting left guard. And I feel like he played pretty well when he was in there. I asked Doug Nussmeier today, like, is that trade kind of just a signal of confidence in Dylan? And he kind of said, yeah, I mean, like, he's a veteran player. You brought him in here to be that. I don't know if he's your long-term left guard, but he's definitely a quality player who, let's face it, might be a step up quality-wise from what you've been getting out of Trevor, which had been a mixed bag at absolute best. A few others who have injuries but were full participants: quarterback Taysom Hill dealing with a knee, defensive end Cam Jordan dealing with an ankle, offensive tackle Barry Wesley, hip injury. He's been brought back from IR. He's now in his 21-day practice window. Defensive end Jonah Williams with a shoulder. Again, all those guys were full participants both days of practice, so they'll be expected to play. Devon Godchaux was added on Thursday, as has been the case for a rest day. Again, you do mostly third down on Thursdays, and that's just not when he's on the field, so it just makes sense to get him a rest day. That's kind of what's been happening. He is not going to be at risk of missing the game. The guy to watch is defensive tackle Bryan Bresee, who was added to the injury report on Thursday with a back issue. He was limited, but anytime you get added to the injury report midweek, it's usually a sign that something happened in practice. And so it's going to be something to watch. If he's a DNP on Friday, which we won't know at the time of recording, obviously, then that becomes an issue. But we'll have to wait and see. On the other side, there's a few situations to monitor. The biggest being running back Rico Dowdle, who I did not expect to say that sentence coming into the season, but he has been that good. He's third in the NFL in rushing, despite really not playing that much over the first month of the season. He has a quad injury. He missed practice on Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday. You expect him to play, but will he be limited at all? Does that mean you get more Chuba Hubbard? If he is limited, that's a bonus. That is an advantage to the Saints, because Rico Dowdle might be the best running back in football, at least in terms of how he's played over the past 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So we'll have to see. He has basically been their offense. So that'll be something to monitor. A couple other guys who were DMPs: guard Chandler Zavala. He has an elbow injury. He was a DMP both days. And then Bryson Tremaine, wide receiver. He has a hip injury. He was a DMP on Thursday. The one to monitor, though, similar to Bryan Bresee, defensive tackle Derek Brown, the kind of do-it-all defensive tackle for this Panthers team. Star player, excellent player. He's all over the field. He has an elbow issue. He was added to the practice report, the injury report, on Thursday. So similar to Bryan Bresee, you're going to want to look at that status on Friday, because if he's a DMP, that's not a good sign for his availability. So just something to watch. Cade Mays, Damian Lewis, Princely Amanmilen, all were on the injury report, but were full participants. So they'll be expected to play. And then safety Lathan Ransom, he was limited with an illness on Wednesday. He was upgraded to a full participant on Thursday. So that's the injury report. I don't expect it to really impact this matchup all that much, assuming Bryan Bresee, Derek Brown both play. If they don't play, then that makes a big difference for both offenses, because the Panthers, you look at the numbers, they're not exactly a premier pressure team, even with Derek Brown in there. And you don't just simply replace a Derek Brown. I actually think the Saints will have an easier time if it comes down to it, having to replace Bryan Bresee, though that will take away some of your pop in the pass rush and the interior, because he's a guy that, while he's always kind of a question mark on rundowns, when it comes to the Saints getting off the field, which was a disaster against the Rams, one of the times you did get off the field was because he made an individual effort to get you off the field and batted down a pass from Matthew Stafford and forced a punt. So he's not a guy you want to be without. Either way, that's the injury report. Again, getting ready for Saints at Panthers. Saints 1-8, Panthers 5-4 up at Bank of America Stadium. We'll be heading up there. We have only East Coast road trips left, which I like the East Coast road trips. They're quick. I get that kind of free hour in the morning, and then I get it back on the way back, which just feels like cheating. It's a way better road trip for me personally. So I'm excited about it. We got Carolina, you got Tampa, you got Miami, You got Atlanta. It's all East Coast, baby. That's what I like to hear. I grew up in the East Coast time zone, so it just feels right to go back every now and then. But all right, who dat? Go Saints. We're gonna come back with Brees and stuff. Emphasis on the Brees, who had a big who had big news this week. So we're gonna hear from him, Saints coaches, trade deadline, all that good stuff. Who dat? Go Saints. Stick around. And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here, getting you ready for Saints 1-8 at Panthers 5-4. And hey, what better team to start your turnaround against than the team that you're really trying to mirror in terms of where they were last year at this time versus where they are now? And they started that in the second half of their season last year, playing better football, winning some games, and suddenly they are the team that everyone's looking at like, wow, good for them. How about you make that, wow, that sucks. They couldn't even beat the Saints. How about you make that? How about we make it that way for them? The Saints, a team that sent 2 players out of town at the trade deadline, 2 players on expiring contracts that you were not going to extend. And we'll see how that goes. I do think that it could mean some positive things in the passing attack and how you operate on offense. But we'll have to wait and see. Those trades are wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, who got sent to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for a 2026 fourth rounder and a 2026 fifth rounder, which effectively replenished the assets you sent to bring in Devon Vele, which was a 2026 fourth rounder, the Saints fourth rounder, which will be a little higher than the one they brought in, but it is what it is. And then a 2027 seventh rounder. So that's the real upgrade is, yes, you moved back some spots in the fourth round, but you at least have a fourth round pick, which I think is the important thing. And so if you're looking at it that way, you've turned the seventh rounder into a fifth rounder this year, which kind of balances it. I kind of posted that and people said, well, it's not the same. You didn't replenish it because you moved back in the fourth round, but you turned effectively a 2027 seventh into a 2026 fifth rounder, which is a pretty significant upgrade at the end of the day, which kind of balances that out. Either way, it's the clearest signal as of now that the Saints are looking toward the future. And Kellen Moore was asked about that. This is what he had to say.
When you trade your number 2 receiver and your starting left guard and don't get any assets that help this year and you're 1-8, is that an acknowledgement that the future is a little more in the forefront than maybe it was earlier?
I think it's a combination. Obviously, there's a future component of this that's real with the what came back in return, but it provides opportunities for some guys that we feel really good about. For Dylan to hop in there at left guard. Dylan's going to play left guard, and he's going to play great. And obviously he's had some success in this league. He's played well when we've asked him to play. Receiver room, Vele, Tip, Cooksey, like those guys are going to obviously play more snaps naturally. The snaps will get distributed to those guys, and so their roles will increase, which we have a lot of confidence in those guys as well. And so, obviously I think you can, like you said, you can compete and go after each and every one of these games like we always do, and still provide yourself with something in the future as we develop this thing.
Yeah, and so it's an interesting answer just in the sense that, I think that Rashid Shaheed departing is not going to be a boon for Mason Tipton or necessarily Brandon Cooks. It will be a significant kind of sea change as far as Devon Vele and Devon Vele's reps and how he is operating in the offense and the opportunities he gets, or the ops, as Kellen likes to call them, that he gets in the offense. I think that Brandon Cooks will get about the same snap count. We'll get about the same snap share as he got. It'll just be a lot more out of the slot. And Vele will operate more as your traditional X isolation player. And you'll see Chris Olave and Brandon Cooks running a lot of combination routes, and you're going to get the big guy kind of by himself a lot more often, so you can take advantage of single coverage and run some slants and get some easy yards against man-to-man single coverage, right? Like that's what you need to do. It's why you brought him in. And I think if you can get some cheap first downs that way, everything will seem so much easier. Just think of how the Rams operated with Puka Nacua, right? Like think about how that worked last week and why they were so difficult to stop. the first drive of the game, they were just throwing the ball out to him one-on-one, and he was just not getting tackled. Like, that's all that was happening, is you had Kool-Aid McKinstry, whoever was on him, playing 4 to 5 yards off because you're one-on-one and you don't want to get beat deep. And you're able to just flip the ball out there. And he's not picking up 20, 25 yards, but he is picking up 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, some cheap yards. And that's the benefit of being that big, strong, physical receiver. And that's something that the Saints are going to take advantage of more often because they're not trying to pigeonhole 2 speed threats onto the field at the same time. So we'll see. Either way, like, this is where the Saints are, is they've got to figure shit out. They have to. They just have to. There is no alternative. You're 1-8. There are no bad ideas. Let's see what everyone has, and that's kind of where you're at. As far as the quarterback, I talked about this in the mini episode. You're not going to be able to do much when you're on the field for 40 plays. And so in the beginning of the game, you put that on the quarterback, you put that on the offense, the 3 and outs to start. That's not a good scenario, especially you get the defense gets off the field to get you the ball, albeit at your 4-yard line. You can't generate a first down. So the first half, that's on the offense. That final drive of the first half, the offense started to move the ball. From that point on, it was on the defense. It was on the defense being unable to get off the field. Maybe they were tired, maybe they were whatever. But I do think that Tyler Shough operated pretty well, and there's a lot to build on there. This is what Doug Nussmeier had to say when he was asked about that.
What do you take away from his first start?
Well, obviously, it was, a game that got away from us a little bit, sooner than we had expected or anticipated. But there's a lot of good things in there, and there's a lot of things to improve on. But the one thing was it wasn't too big for him. And that's a dang good defense he played against. You tip your hat to their pass rush. They got some real dudes up front. Like I said, going into the game, I know Giff and his guys are going to come after the passer. And so a lot of positives. Obviously, his first time out there. And so, I think you're really excited to see him go get the second one this week.
His touchdown throw, you said that was kind of the third read to Juwan. How did you, when you look back at that, how did you feel like he handled that situation in general?
One of the real positives, when you get down in the red zone, obviously the field shrinks, decision-making becomes critical, things happen fast. And, for him to get through that progression the way he did to get to Juwan, as we say, when you look at the play, that's the guy that we always say, well, throw it to him, but that guy never really is open. And Juwan did a nice job getting open, Ty did a nice job finding him.
Yeah, so we'll see how he builds from there. I do think there is positivity in that the quarterback was in a really negative situation, and I feel like the quarterback delivered, right? I feel like the quarterback played pretty well, and it was the fumble that let him down. It was the other side of the football that was unable to get off the field, right? And you can put that on the offense for not playing complementary football. But at the end of the day, what you needed was for the defense to give the offense the ball back after halftime. And instead, they allowed a 10-minute, 16-play drive. And I did ask Brandon Staley, okay, what's the balance of that? Like, how do you assess that? Why was it so difficult to get off the field? And this is what he said. What do you think kind of led to that? And how do you assess that as you look back on, how the players handled it? Obviously being on the field that much in the second half is a difficult scenario for a defense.
Yeah, there's a couple components there. I thought we forced them to drive the field, which is a good thing. That's a positive. There weren't the rippers. They just get you beat that you can't recover from. But I thought that there were a lot of little things from a fundamental standpoint and from an execution scheme-wise that led to, a lot of those first downs. But I thought our group hung in there. And still, 43 or 44 minutes, that's a bunch of ball. And I thought our guys hung tough. If you looked at the run numbers, there was 44 runs, but, 4 yards per run, you're probably going to take that, a lot in a lot of games. If that was 20 to 22 runs in a game at that same clip, you'd be saying we had a really good day at the office. So I thought that was positive. But I think that where we need to improve is how we start the games. And then when we get into an advantage situation within those drives, which there were plenty of them, we need to be able to knock them down, especially when you're playing against a special quarterback and a special group of guys. A 2nd and 15, you got to keep that advantage. You can't make that 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. We had a couple of those in there. We had a big 3rd and 8 after we got that 3 and out. Then we get them to a 3rd and 8. And, we don't get off the field when we were in a kind of a prime coverage to do so. So I think our guys are seeing those margins there when you're playing against the special people, that's within our control. And I think that our guys will learn a lot from it, like I said, and, be ready to bounce back this week.
Yeah, I talked to Cam Jordan about this as well, and it was similar. It's just like guys got to go make a play. Guys got to execute. Guys got to be fundamentally sound and go make a play. He also echoed what Brandon said, and I do think it's notable to an extent. I think there is some level of acceptance in that this is what you are. You're 1-8, and it's not going to get any better, and so you're kind of just riding it out. Like, I think there is some level of that, but for what it's worth, this locker room is not fracturing, and there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for the coach. This is a very, very difficult situation, and they're at least all pulling the rope in the same direction. It has not led to results, but if this thing is going to get turned around, that's going to be a big element of if you can keep everyone pointing the ship in the right direction, then that's going to hopefully lead to some improved football and everyone's going to take steps forward. But no, I mean, like, fundamentally sound football is what you need. And there were just mistakes, like you just saw people making mistakes. You saw people out of position, under leveraged in coverage. And the Rams, you got to give them credit. They're really good offense. They're going to take advantage of that. So, what we'll see. I think so much of this season can be described as kind of a take your medicine year. And why do you take medicine? So you can get better, right? And you're taking your medicine as a fan. You're taking your medicine as a player because those are the type of games that you have to learn from. And so hopefully that's the case, right? Like, that's where you're at. You're not going to suddenly see this team come out and win 8 games in a row and do that. But you do need to see this team not make the same mistakes week in, week out. And so that's where we're going to learn over the course of the second half of this season, whether that's the case or not. One final clip to justify the name of the segment, and we teased it. Drew Brees, back in the broadcast booth, baby. Joining Fox. He tried it out with NBC after retiring. Didn't really go so well. He had a few NFL assignments from a broadcast perspective, but he was largely a studio analyst. One of the games he did call was that Thanksgiving Day debacle where the Saints faced the Bills. Trevor Siemian was the quarterback in that game, and I'll describe it as Bills a lot, Saints a little, because they didn't score many points and they allowed a lot of points. The Bills fans were very happy. They stayed in the stadium for like an hour after the game. I don't know if I've ever seen road fans in a building in the Superdome that long after the game ended that I did that day. And I will say, we broke out the Drew Brees cards for the occasion. Just say, hey, go Drew. And this is what Drew had to say when he was on WWL radio on Wednesday, kind of chatting with Bobby Hebert about getting back into the booth.
Hall of Famer Drew Brees is joining Fox Sports to become a full-time NFL game analyst. Fox NFL Sunday's Big 3 game analysts are now, boy, that's the 3 Musketeers, the best of the best. Tom Brady, Greg Olsen, and Drew Brees. You had to be excited, Drew, to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. It's been something I've been thinking about for a long time, just waiting for the right opportunity. I've got a great relationship with a lot of the networks, had conversations over the years, but really like Brad Zager and everybody at Fox. Had the chance to do some things with them this year specifically. Just really like the culture there, really like the fit, great opportunity. I'll be in the booth with Adam Amin, who I think is a young up-and-comer on the play-by-play side of things. So really, really excited about the opportunity with Fox.
It would seem like it wouldn't be this Sunday, but so when is your first assignment?
Next week.
Okay, next week.
Next week, so it'll be Sunday, November 16th, somewhere probably in the Northeast. Obviously, Fox gets a lot of NFC,
right.
So a lot of NFC North, NFC East. is what it seems like. But man, I hope I get the Saints along the way here this year.
And Drew, if you get a Saints game, have you talked to Vilma? Because Vilma's had a few of those.
Oh yeah, he gets Saints games all the time. I think he's like the NFC South representative, with all these games.
Yeah, and so if you recall, when we talked to Drew after he was announced as the inductee into the Saints Hall of Fame before the 2024 season, he basically said, and I asked him, like, hey, do you want to get back into broadcasting? And he said, yeah, like that's his long-term goal. The initial problem was, hey, it's a lot of long hours, a lot of long weeks, and he wasn't even calling games. He was missing time with his kids, and so he decided to hang it up after the one season. What's fascinating about this situation is the reason Fox found themselves with a sudden opening in one of their top broadcast slots was that Mark Sanchez got arrested after getting stabbed in an altercation at 3 a.m. in Indianapolis earlier this year. That's the spot that Drew Brees is filling. He's going to be next to Adam Amin. His first assignment is going to be the weekend of November 16th. So that group of games, he'll be primarily dealing with NFC North, NFC East, like that region. We'll see if he ends up on any Saints games, but good for him. Not good for the situation, but if they're looking for a safe play for a guy who's almost certainly not going to be getting arrested at 3 a.m. on the streets of Indianapolis, Drew Brees is a good bet. It's a good bet. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, the issue with Drew in that role is you got to be critical. You got to be honest and critical, and he tends to pull every single punch. I think there's a chance he's learned from that. I hope he has, because I do think that Drew has a good mind to call the games. He just has to be willing to take the gloves off and just lay some people out at times. He can't be friends with everyone in the broadcast booth, and we'll see how that goes. But good for Drew. I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the broadcast. Either way, that's the end of our Breeze and Stuff segment. As we do it, will it be the final Breeze and Stuff segment of the season? That's a good question. That's something to worry about after the bye week. Either way, who dat? Go Saints. We'll be right back with Des Johnson and Steve Geller to preview Saints at Panthers. Who dat? As always, stick around. And we are back on Inside a Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak and Steve Geller with you as always, getting you ready for Saints 1-8 at Panthers 5-4. The Panthers second in the NFC South. Eat your heart out, Falcons. Y'all suck. Anyway, we're getting into this. We are bringing back Desmond Johnson, friend of the program. Des, one of the reasons we're still doing previews right now, and I very much considered saying, hey, we're just going to stop talking about the upcoming games before we go face the Carolina Panthers. But I decided to ride it out through the bye week in large part because you've been on here so many times, so miserable about how everything's been going for the Panthers for basically your entire tenure talking about the team. And finally, the Panthers have found a way. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games. How are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Just tell me. What's going through your mind?
It's like we were saying, like finally, like the Rock. I mean, it's kind of like what it's one of these things where it's like we don't want to jinx it, so like we're trying to just do everything the same every week, like when we're doing our pods or whatever. It's crazy because they've won 5 out of the last 6, and basically. The 2 things that changed were that the defense is healthy for once. Like last year, they were banged up from like week 1. Like Derrick Brown missed week 1, and clearly having Derrick Brown in the middle of the defense will change your defense. Like we were trying to compare him to Aaron Donald last year. I think he's there. I really think Derrick Brown is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Brian Baldinger does this great thing on X each week where he's basically just like showing like all 22 tape and just going through stuff. And this week he does it every week, but this week he was like, "Here comes my favorite part of the show. This is the part where I showed Derek Brown throwing somebody out the club, and it's literally like him getting double teamed and just ragdolling people, like just across back and forth the field." So having him in the middle of the field is great. J.C. Horn, I think, is a top 5 cornerback. You've got that at 2 levels of your defense. That's going to make your defense much improved, and they've been much improved from last year, where they just had like basically spare parts out there and people from off the street by the end of the season. And of course, Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle has started all of 3 games for Carolina this year, and he leads the NFC in rushing. So that gives you an idea of what this man is doing. I don't know if it's far-fetched to say he may be the best running back in the league this year. Like, it's crazy. Every time he touches the ball, he's ripping off 8-9-yard runs. Like, and they're not like, he's not a scat bat. He's not like a guy that avoids contact. Stu likes to say that, you know, with Rico, there isn't a hole for Rico. He is the hole. Like, he makes the hole. Like, he literally will hit the hole and come out of it the other side with a guy on his ankles and somebody over his back, and he's still just churning going down the field. And when Dave Canales finally decided to give Rico the starting job over Chuba Hubbard, I think it actually ignited the team. Like, they play different when Rico's out there. And I can get it because I sit in high school all the time. Like, you know, if somebody rips off a 20-yard run or something, the offensive line gets hype behind it because they know that they help do that. If your man is ripping off a 15-yard run the first play of the game and then an 8-yard run right after that, the offensive line is juiced. Like, I see it's been a while since I've seen Panthers stand up on the sideline to watch the offense, you know, like to watch a player, probably since Cam Newton, where like it doesn't happen very often in the NFL. Usually the other side, they go sit down, they look good for tape. Every once in a while you get a player where the other players want to see them play. Like, so they get up and they watch. And if you watch them, the Panthers are watching the offense and Rico Dowdle. And Rico is kind of the thing that's stirring the drink right now. And Canales not being afraid to ruffle feathers. And they just gave Chuba Hubbard an extension last year. So it's probably pressure to maybe try to start him, which is probably why they kind of lost that Buffalo game. Well, Bryce was out, and then they also started Chuba, so they just kind of. But once they kind of figured it out and put Rico in there, everything started to fall into place. And now they can get a little bit healthier. They're only 2 games out from Tampa in the NFC South, and they haven't played Tampa. They don't play Tampa until the last week of the season and the third to last week of the season. So like week 16 and 18 is Tampa, and I think that Tampa game at the end might get flexed if they keep going at this rate to a night game for the division. So it's great to be in this situation. It took a long time, but I think finally the Panthers finally got their formula right in the front office and coaching staff and quarterback. And now they've got those pieces together. Now they can kind of start building around it. So shout out to Dan Morgan, the general manager of the Carolina Panthers, for putting this together.
Yeah, the number with Rico that really stands out to me is like yards after contact. Against the Cowboys, he had 126 yards.
It's insanity. Like, and he's not a big back either. He's not like he's Derrick Henry. He's just, it's different when you're the one hitting people. It's different when you're the one hitting people as opposed to waiting to get hit. Chuba waits to get hit. Like he'll stand behind the line, he'll wait for a hole to open, and then he runs through it. Rico slides. Rico kind of like, he'll get the rock. He's very decisive. He puts his foot in the ground and he goes north-south, but it won't necessarily be a huge hole. It'll just be like he just kind of waits and plays peekaboo with the linebacker, and then he'll slide behind that left guard or whoever, and there's a little sliver, and all he needs is a little bit of daylight. He gets that and gets to the second level, goodbye 10 yards, 12 yards, whatever. Hopefully somebody in your secondary is going to catch him because I've seen enough of it now. He did it to us last year when he was in Dallas. They came to our place, and he had like his best rushing game of the year. Like he rushed for like 150 yards or something crazy down our back. And then for some reason, Dallas decides not to re-sign him. I can't figure out why Dallas didn't re-sign this guy. Like it's amazing to me how this kid slipped out of his fingers and got back home because he went to high school in Asheville at AC Reynolds. So I don't know if we can keep him because he's playing himself into money that I don't know that the Panthers want to spend. But they may not have a choice if he keeps his pace up. Like if this keeps going with this rate.
Yeah, between Xavier Legette and Rico Dowdle, you got some serious backwoods South Carolina going on because he's from Xavier's from Mullins,
South Carolina,
like Gaffney.
Yeah,
I spent time in South Carolina. Those are some thick accents you got there. Like people are like, "Oh, is Xavier's accent real?" I'm like, "Oh, it's real." He was just hiding it for a while. Are you concerned about the quad injury? That's my question because it's tough this early in the week. You know. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Like, is that a concern or is that like they're managing it? Like, how would you see that?
He did not practice Wednesday. They're managing it. I'm not concerned. I don't think we would have probably heard by now from Dave Canales if it was going to be an issue going into Sunday. We may see a little bit more of Shough. It really depends on Rico, because Rico got hurt in that game early, and just kind of worked it out like throughout the game. Stu told me as a running back, he was like, I knew he was going back in the game when I saw him on the sideline with his helmet on, and he was walking back and forth by himself, just trying to stretch it out. He was like, he's going back in, like he's fine. So he was like, if he was able to finish that game, they'll rest him this week. If they rest him this week, that means that he's going to get the ball on Sunday, and then he'll play. And Stu, he had a lot of injuries, throughout his career, so they did a lot of practice load management with him also. And he was like, just because I didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, it wasn't because I was so hurt I couldn't. They were just trying to protect me for Sunday so I can get to Sunday and go. So I think that's what they're doing at Rico right now. So I'd still expect a heavy dose of him.
Also on this Carolina defense, curious how that duo at wide receiver is going. Jeff had brought up with Leggett, but also paired up now with the rookie and Tet McMillan. How that duo is developing with Bryce Young?
Pretty good. Tet started out great. I think he's actually leading rookie receivers, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. He's settling in as a number one. The main question was with Xavier at the beginning of the year. There was a lot of Panthers Twitter is one of the most dangerous places that you can wander around. We attack each other. But if somebody comes at one of us, they all kind of merge like Voltron and like go after whoever it is from the national media. And the Panther Twitter media folks and content creators were kind of questioning Xavier. Did we do the right thing to trade up to the first round to get him? Did we overreach? Is he ever going to get it? Because he had a couple games at the very beginning of the year where he dropped some passes and ran some weird routes and stuff. But then he had a breakout game a couple weeks back, and I think he's going to settle in to be a quality number two. Can he be a number one? I don't know. But again, Stu actually mentioned this to me as well because he's in the building a lot. People forget how little football Xavier Leggett has actually played, like in his career. So he's still learning the game of football. This is a guy in his early 20s that didn't play a whole lot as a child and really didn't start to play till he got into college. So he's still learning how to do this. He's kind of like raw clay. So let him eat, let him kind of grow with Bryce. I love the fact that Bryce has two wide receivers he can grow with, kind of like Joe Burrow up in Cincinnati. And hopefully we get a problem like Cincinnati where we got to figure out how to pay both of these guys down the road, because that's a good problem to have. So I like that they're surrounding him with guys that are like in their mid-20s that can grow with them. I think Rico's 27. Mitchell Evans, the tight end that they drafted, has been very good. Jatavian Sanders, the tight end they drafted the year before, has been very good. So you're seeing the pieces that Dan Morgan drafted the past two drafts. They're all kind of like contributing like to what we're doing offense and defensively. He's had two really good drafts, which is unusual for any team to have two back-to-back really, really good drafts where you're getting starters or like quality rotational guys like in your lineup. And I think if he gets another one, the sky's the limit for Carolina, because you got to build in the draft in the NFL anyway. Like you see teams try to do it through free agency in the quick way, but the teams that are actually really, really good are teams that built in the draft.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of going back through this run, I think it's at 5 or 6 games, and it's kind of funny to look at because the scoring differential is still not very positive. I think they're
not some walk-offs. Yeah,
they won 4 of them, but they're minus 15 because of the Bills game, right? Like, yeah. And so it's you win close games, and maybe the losses aren't particularly close, whatever. But how is this team winning? Because you look at the numbers and 30th in pass yards per game. 29th in yards per attempt passing. The Saints are right there too at 28th. Middle of the pack in passing touchdowns. A lot of pressures allowed, not a ton of sacks allowed. Bryce Young, I think he threw for 100 yards in the game against the Packers. It was enough. Yeah, so is it just kind of control the ball, run the ball, win the time of possession, outlast them? Like how has this team been winning?
Run the ball, stop the run. Like literally, that's kind of been what they've been doing. And that, all great Panther teams since '95, if they've been good, that's what they've been good at doing: stopping the run and running the football. And right now, I think they're top 5 in rushing yards per game, like over 130 or something like that. And then the defense has come on, especially the past 4 or 5 games, just stifling. They're not getting like they did get a lot of sacks the other week, but they're not like that. They're really good in pass coverage in terms of like disrupting young quarterbacks. Like we saw that with Jordan Love last week, where he just was getting flustered. Like, he couldn't figure out where to go with the ball. And he'd throw it sometimes. You'd be like, where was he trying to go? Like, that ball went to, like, nowhere, or, like, to some random part of the field. And I know it was really windy in Lambeau because Bryce had an interception Sunday where he was trying to hit Xavier in the corner of the end zone, and it just, like, dropped out the sky.
That's what I was thinking of. Like, you watch him throw it, and you're like, oh, this is a chance. And then it ends up
it's just like a duck. It just fell down. And it went until after the game. I was like, you know what? I bet the wind had something to do with that, because it was in the corner of the end zone. Stu was like, yeah, probably. It probably, because it was really windy in Lambeau on Sunday. But yeah, like, it's mainly just a simple formula. And you know what it is? The Panthers have bought in, and people don't talk about that enough. Or you can hear a coach say something over and over until they're blue in the face. But if the team hasn't bought in on what the coach is saying, it still makes it hard to win. People are upset and still picking at Bryce. And I'm like, he's shown me enough now in his attitude and the way he leads the team follows him. So, like, regardless if you like it or not, Bryce is going to be here. Bryce is going to get his extension. They're going to ride with Bryce and, learn to love his game, because he's just now kind of learning this playbook too and getting more adapted to it. Plus, you got to keep in mind, this is the first time Dave Canales has called plays, so he's learning on the fly live. So it's not just Bryce. It's a whole chain of things here. Convert third downs. They're very good converting fourth downs right now. They did a bunch on Sunday on Green Bay and got, like, all of them. So these are things to watch against the Saints on Sunday, because they're going to keep doing the same formula, and they're very good at home. They play Rico is good for 130, 140 yards easy at Bank of America Stadium, regardless of what uniform he's wearing, apparently, because he did it to us at Dallas when he came here. The 2 games he's played here as a starter, he's had over 150 yards from scrimmage or whatever. He's the key. Like, Rico is the key. If Rico's out there and he's healthy and he's playing, everything else starts to run differently. If he's not out there, the offense kind of stagnates, and that's a little scary, but I'll take it. Like, no, that's fine. That's fine. We kind of figure out the thing to win with. Let's ride this thing until the wheels fall off, really.
You mentioned too, with just the Bryce being the leader, the guys follow him. I feel like this team definitely plays their asses off for Dave Canales. What is it about that uber positive energy he's brought to this team that, as I guess, I know winning helps, but it seems to be infectious with people?
Yeah, I've gotten used to watching the post game locker room scenes that the Panthers put up on their social media, where Dave is, like, giving out, like, kind of like game balls or whatnot, and you just feel the camaraderie and the family, the atmosphere that they're building. When they hired Dan Morgan to be general manager, he said at his press conference that he wanted to find guys that were dogs, that had, like, that DNA of former Panther players, like a Thomas Davis, a Dan Morgan, a Luke Kuechly, Jonathan Stewart, Cam Newton, Steve Smith. These guys are wired a certain way. And you're starting to see that with the guys they draft and the type of character that they bring in. And they're just building it brick by brick. And I want to say, I've said this every place I've been when I've done guest spots and things like that, because I was really hard on him for a couple of years here. But I want to give a shout out to the owner, David Tepper, because he said what he was going to do, which was step out of the way. Nobody believed him. They're like, he's going to meddle. I don't know, he's like a Scooby-Doo villain. He's going to do all this and that or whatever. And to his credit, he stayed out of the way. Now, for the people that get mad when he shows up to practice, like, he'll be at practice and they're like, oh, David Tepper's at practice. I'm like, he owns the team. Like, he's allowed to be here. Like, he can come watch his product if he wants to. It's fine. But the ones that get mad about that kind of stuff, I kind of, like, scrunch my face up a little bit too. But he has done what he said. Joe Person from The Athletic asked him that day, I remember kind of off camera, he asked him, so does this mean, you're going to work with Dan with the picks and stuff now? And I think at the time Tepper was kind of mad at I think that was when they wrote that article about what had happened with Frank Wright and all that stuff. So Tepper wasn't exactly pleased with Joe Person in that moment, but he was just like kind of smirking. He's like, no, I'm in the background now. Like, and when he said it, it kind of made like news, but he has been. Like, I don't think I've seen that man but once since like August. And even then it was just a snapshot of him at training camp, just on the side, watching his product, the people he pay to go out there and perform and entertain the city of Charlotte. So he's done his job. He found somebody to do the football stuff. They hired somebody to do the coaching stuff. And he eliminated all the riffraff from before, let's just go assemble the greatest coaching staff of all time, Avengers style, and put them all in a room together and it'll work. And then let's go get this 5'9" quarterback and shove him behind a non-existent offensive line, and it's going to work. And like all these things they tried to do didn't work. Like, let's trade our best player, Christian McCaffrey, in the middle of the season, and then decide to try to go on a playoff run like the week later. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And then they finally, he stepped out the way, and look at us. Like, now everything is settled, and he's letting football people do football things. So I'm not really sure with New Orleans, who's the quarterback right now, the rookie that they drafted?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about him?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So yes, one of the only things making the second half of the season watchable is the fact that they've finally turned over to the rookie, and you get to at least see what he has.
Yeah.
And one of the stats that kind of stood out to me is from the Panthers side of things, just if it's stopping the run, they haven't really been getting to the quarterback. I think they're 30th in sacks, 29th in quarterback pressures. So how do you see that going? How do you see the Panthers kind of harassing the young quarterback? Because, we watched them play the Rams last week. The Rams have one of the best pressure packages in the NFL, and the game went very predictably for a young quarterback.
They can get there. They haven't been able to complete it. They'll put the paws on the quarterback. They'll touch him. Like, he'll know that they're out there. But, like, can they get, like, 5 sacks, 6 sacks? Maybe. They have come on the past couple of weeks, but they did go, like, the first couple of weeks without a sack. And there's not a premier pass rusher on the defensive line. But again, when you have Derek Brown in the middle of all this like nonsense going on, and he's literally this guy's getting double teamed every play, and like they need to double team him. You're sitting there watching the tape, and like he's throwing one guy off like he's a child, and then he's throwing the other guy the other way. And then there was a play on Sunday where he did that. He starts after the quarterback. The quarterback's running towards the left side of the field towards the sideline. He throws it back to the right side to a wide receiver. Derek Brown changes direction and runs all the way across the field, makes the tackle solo. And like all the destruction this man caused in like 8 seconds of play, he may not be getting sacks, and he is starting to get some sacks now too. Evero kind of does like exotic blitzes. Like he'll send in somebody like a Lathan Ransom or somebody like a safety. They'll come in on a safety blitz. A delayed linebacker might come in. They'll do that to apply pressure just to get a quarterback off their spot. But I don't know if they necessarily care about sacks. I think they care more about turnovers and getting turnovers and flipping the field and that kind of thing, and getting off the field. I don't think they care so much about how many sacks can we get. Now, the guys that they drafted, Nick Scorton, Princely, McMillan, I can't pronounce his name every time. I just say Princely. Yeah, everybody knows what I'm talking about. The two defensive ends that they drafted in the second and third round, they're still rookies. They've shown some flashes, and Scorton especially. But yeah, that won't be an issue unless your quarterback holds the ball too long. Like if it's like coverage type sacks, I could see that happening. But there's not like a Myles Garrett or something like that on the other side of the defense terrorizing like every play, trying to chase after your quarterback. They don't have that yet.
All right, I only have one more question. It's an important one. Do you have strong feelings about the Meow Mix podcast?
It's funny. I actually was going to have them on my terrestrial show Tuesday. It actually ties back to Jonathan Stewart too, because apparently they were going to come back. Yeah. They announced it after the win, which remember I mentioned Panthers Twitter earlier, and the broadcast, Panthers Twitter just lost their mind. Like, no, you can't come back. Like, you're gonna mess this whole thing up, yada yada. And then former players started like going, like Jonathan Stewart, Trey Boston, like all these guys were like, you are not allowed. You shall not pass. Like, you cannot come back. Just sit it out for the team. So they put out another tweet. And they're like, due to former players telling us not to return, we've decided not to come back. And I was like, man, that's messed up. So I actually messaged them. And I was like, hey, man, I have a terrestrial radio station that's on in North Carolina that airs on Friday afternoons in the Triad. I'd like to have you guys come on. People were saying you can't do your podcast, but they're not saying you can't talk. So, like, do you want to get on and explain, like, your situation? And the guy was like, yeah, sure. And about maybe 8 hours went by. We went to sleep. I woke up in the morning. Like, I got a text message from like 6:45 in the morning. And he was like, man, I've been thinking about this all night, and I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can get on and actually talk. And I was like, you know what? I kind of thought about it all night, too. And I don't want people putting that juju on me. So let's just not do it. Yeah, you broke it. You did it.
Right.
That's what Panthers Twitter would do. So
anyone who doesn't understand what we're talking about, so the Meow Mix podcast, which they've been suffering through years terrible football. Right before this stretch of success for the Panthers started, they put out this. They kind of made a big deal about it, and that's the issue. They made it into this huge deal, like
they didn't do it
because we just can't justify doing this anymore. And then the Panthers started winning.
They didn't make it a big deal, though. That's the problem. Like Bleacher Report or somebody grabbed it. Like they're not a very large podcast.
That was the big part. Is Pardon My Take got it? And if you go on their account now or on their podcast, there's all these 1-star reviews. I feel so bad for them. They're just a couple dudes who want to talk about the team, and it was so bad.
It's just two dads, like in the kitchen, like talking about the Panthers like once a week, and they were like, we're still
ruining our lives.
Yeah, it's ruining our lives. Like we don't see our wives, our kids are mad at us. Like. And we're doing it for what? Like the team is doing all this. We've had it. We're just going to take a break. Like that's all they said. And I told him, it's like, it's not that you took a break. It's the way you worded it when you left. Because you were kind of like, we're leaving because we're tired of losing. And then literally as soon as you left, and it went viral, like a million views and all this other stuff. Everyone was like, oh man, you got to come back now because of the views. And everybody's like, no, like just stay over there. And then we started winning. So once we started winning, it added on top of it. So like everyone was like, yeah, I'm excited to stay out, man. So this has been an ongoing conversation. And so that when they came back and said, we're coming back, Twitter lost its mind. Like, no, you can't do this. And I just grilled Stu about this yesterday when we were doing our taping. I was like, man, y'all bullied me out, Mix, into not coming back or whatever. He's like, nah, we didn't bully him. We just believe in karma. And hey, man, you can't jump off the train when it's still running. Like, you got to stay on it and see what it is. So you guys can't quit. I'm trying to prep you guys for what's going to potentially happen over the rest of the season. There's going to be dark times. It's going to get rough. Like you're going to wish that you weren't a Saints fan or that you weren't involved with this organization at all at times. You're like, why am I doing this to myself? It does get better. It will get better eventually. When? I can't tell you. It took 7 years for me. So hopefully it won't take that long for you guys, but it does turn around eventually, usually.
Yeah. The lesson to be learned here is not necessarily that you can't quit. It's that if you do quit, you have to quiet quit.
Yeah, just quiet quit. Just stop doing it. Just don't make
that's the mistake. If they just stopped recording, no one would have questioned it.
Yeah, nobody would even known. Like
then they could have come back and been like, "Yeah, we just took a hiatus."
Yeah, and no one would have said a word. No, most people were like, "We didn't even know who y'all were until Pardon My Take put this out." We're like, "Who is Meow Mix? Like, is that affiliated with the Panthers?" And then people started looking at it and like, "Oh, it's just two dudes talking about the Panthers each week." And it blew up into something really. I feel bad for them because I feel like they're getting cyberbullied at this point. But
that's exactly what's happening. But it's funny. It's like it's funny. That's what the internet was made for. Just like that, journalist who was having a fight with a pie over the last days. Like there's always like that's what the internet is for. If you make yourself the butt of the joke, you can't complain that.
They've been pretty good about it too. They're just like, we get it, we understand, we won't mess up the mojo or whatnot.
They need to wait for the team to lose a couple games, then they can come back, and then
they probably would try to come back. And we're like, well, you might as well come on back now because we're already back doing what we were doing before. But I don't know if this team. I'm looking at the schedule. I don't know if this team is going to fall back. Like I don't know what they're going to finish at all. I don't know if people are talking playoffs and this other stuff. I'm like, whoa, slow down. Like let's just get through the Saints and then figure this out. But they're not as good as the Bills. They're not as good as the Patriots. Yeah, they're not there, but they're good enough to contend in the NFC South. Tampa Bay's won a lot of close games. Usually you come back to the mean from that. They're not like just beating people. And I don't think the Panthers are scared of them either. So it's going to be interesting. November is going to be really interesting to see what happens in the NFC South. Because I think by the time we get to December, you'll have a very clear view of there'll be two teams right here at the top and two teams at the bottom. I'm thinking it's going to be the Bucs and the Panthers. And then you have the Falcons that are basically 500 in my mind. And then the Saints, you guys are in a rebuild finally. So I think the Saints can still be feisty and competitive in games. It's just a matter of, do they want it? Like, because again, it's going to get rough. Like for some of these guys, especially the older vets that are on this team that are used to winning for long periods of time. And now you're going through this at the end. I watched the vets for Carolina go through this towards the end of Cam Newton's regime here, where guys like Thomas Davis and then Luke Kuechly retired, and Stu got sent away to the Giants, or he got cut and went to the Giants, that kind of thing. You start seeing the remnants of the team you're used to reporting on. They age out and they start moving on. It depends on if your general manager and front office can actually replace those players. And there's only a handful of general managers in the league that are really good at doing that. Like a Howie Roseman in Philly that just constantly upgrading their roster every year. We'll see. We'll see with New Orleans, but this is a trap game for Carolina. So I can't sit here and be like, we're going to win this game. I'm like, I hope we win this game. We should win this game. The line has moved since last time I checked. It was 7.5 at the beginning of the week. I think yesterday it was at 5.5. I don't know what it's at today.
Yeah, I saw it at 5.5 last too.
Is that where it's still? I think it's still there. It would not surprise me if it's down to 3.5 by the time we get to Sunday. Just because I don't know if Vegas trusts the Panthers yet. But I'm sort of looking forward now.
And here's the thing: even in their wins, they've been close, right? This is not a team that you would trust to win even if they won, which they probably will. It's not a team that you would look at and be like, well, they're obviously going to win by 6 points, because have they won a game by 6 points other than the Falcons all season? Like, they've all been like 3-point wins. So
Dallas was a walk-off field goal. Yeah. Green Bay was a walk-off field goal. Right. They've all been kind of even who was it? Miami? I think it was Miami
Miami was a 3-point game. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was one where they came from behind. Miami went down and scored again. Then Bryce went down and they scored to take the lead and win the game. So yeah, you're going to get probably a close game, because the one thing
Jets was 13-6.
Yeah. So the one thing with the Panthers is it's not that they play down the competition, but they will they will give you the football. That's probably the best way to put it. Like, you will have opportunities to score on short fields because the Panthers will do something, even in this win streak, fumble, interception at the wrong time, something wacky, something like a blocked field goal, something weird will happen where you'll get the football in a space you didn't expect to get it. The difference is that the Panthers have learned how to punch through that. Like, once they do that, to keep pounding, basically. Whereas previously they would, you like how I stuck that in there. Before they would give up. Well, not give up, but it would compound. It would compound the problem, and the snowball would get bigger rolling down the hill. This year, it feels like they figured out how to stop the snowball. Like, once they do something like that. And Bryce was doing that a lot in the very beginning of the season. A couple turnovers early, digging a hole for the defense. They're starting off in a hole. If he doesn't do that, he gives them a chance. And that's kind of what they figured out collectively. Now, can we get Bryce Young to, throw for 220 a game and a touchdown and play efficiently and get the ball out and moving around? That might not even be the game plan that Dave Canales is really calling. It feels like he's really trying to keep it on the ground. So, but yeah, I still expect a good game. It's a division game. So regardless of what the records are, the Saints are going to come out to play. The Panthers aren't going to overlook them. And I just expect a really good competitive game on Sunday. And I hope the odds makers are right and that Carolina comes out with a victory.
Yeah, hashtag keep compounding doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But all right. Des Johnson, host of Believe in Panthers. I don't know if we even said that at the top. You've just been on here so many times. I've stopped feeling the need to say where you were from. But host of Believe in Panthers, go check it out. Thanks so much for the insight, man. Looking forward to the game.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care, Des.
But all right, thanks again to Des for coming on. Believe in Carolina Panthers. Again, I forgot to say that at the top. But hey, I just think the Panthers are a good example of and I've been using this example all season. The first half of last season for the Panthers went a lot like the first half of this season for the Saints, in that there wasn't a lot of positivity around Dave Canales or the program or where the team was going. And then over the second half of the season, they started playing better football. They started winning a few games. They started being a team that people were looking at and saying, okay, well, things suck, but they're at least heading in the right direction. And then you get to this year and, obviously it hasn't been perfect for them. They did just lose by 30 points to the Bills a couple weeks ago. But there's enough positivity that, again, you're looking at it and saying, hey, right trajectory. The second half of this season for the Saints has to have some element of we're playing better football than we were the first half of the season. Like, things are heading in the right direction, even if they aren't perfect, even if there are holes. You have to mirror that. And it would be nice to see that start ahead of the bye week, because if you go into that bye week with all this negativity, that's going to be a long 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of mentioned the fact that game for Tyler Shough to get baptized in his first NFL start against the Ram squad is the roughest he's going to see the rest of this season. So you you kind of dipped them into the fire right off the bat, and it looks you're still on a hostile territory, you want to say, because you're going to be on the road, but it's things are going to be, I'm hoping at least, things run a lot smoother, things are a lot slower for him against the Panthers defense. You've mentioned the fact that they're not really generating those pressures and hits on the quarter. Well, the pressure's enough on the quarterback. Just we'll see what happens with Brown being this game wrecker.
Yeah, he's not a game wrecker in terms of getting to the quarterback so much. Like,
yeah.
But either way, it's again, like you could get to the end of the season, the defense could be playing like absolute dog shit, and we would still feel a lot better about the situation if Tyler Shough goes out there and looks like a quarterback that you can build around, right?
Right.
Like, so much of this season is going to hinge on whether the Saints feel like they have the quarterback or whether they feel like they have to go draft a quarterback. And you might draft a quarterback either way if you end up in a position, and how often do you get in a position to end up with the top quarterback coming out, even regardless of who it is, right? So even if Tyler Shough plays well, you might still draft a quarterback, but if you can end up in a situation where you don't feel like you have to draft a quarterback, then that rebuild goes a lot faster, right? Because you could theoretically trade out, because that's the difference to me. If you feel like you have to go get the quarterback, you don't trade out, because if that's the guy, then you go get that guy.
Cash the ticket, right?
If you don't feel like you need to get the quarterback and you feel like you can do what the Bears did a couple years ago and trade back and allow another team to go get him. I see a lot of people saying like, oh, you trade with the Jets. What makes you think the Jets are going to win games? Like that, like I keep seeing people say like they say Saints should trade down and take a bunch of assets from the Jets. The Jets are literally tanking. Like you see what the Jets have done. And you think that's the team that's like going to win a bunch of games down the stretch of the season. They're not. They're trying to get that number one pick.
Right.
So, like, I don't think the Jets are going to be the team you trade with, because I don't think the Saints are going to get the number one pick. I think the Jets are. Like, the Jets have also only won one game. And they're going to play each other later in the year. So, like, I think it's silly for people to be putting out mock drafts and saying, wow, well, they could get so much from the Jets. You're kidding.
They might
yourself.
be behind the Jets.
They will be behind the Jets. I would put money on it. They will be behind the Jets, because the Jets have done everything it takes to be as bad as possible. The Jets are gonna get the number one pick in the draft.
You mean we don't have to worry about the Aaron Glenn revenge game? Reunion game? I'm sorry.
Yeah, reunion game. Gosh, Steve. What's the revenge? The Saints wanted to hire him. If anything, it's a revenge game for the Saints.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, there's more motivation for the Saints to.
Right. We wanted you.
Yeah, to be like, you know what, we are better off with this guy than you are with that guy. So again, like we're counting a whole lot of chickens that are never going to hatch right now, is my point. So all you can look at right now is who's playing well, who's improving, who do you build around, and who's part of the future and who is not. So
I think right now, for me at least, I look at the Saints draft, it's going to be a top 5 pick. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, sure. But there's a big difference between the number 5 pick and the number 1 pick. And the idea that like the Saints are locked into the number 1 pick right now, which a lot of people are talking like they are, is a little short-sighted when you look at the back half of the schedule and understand there's a lot of winnable games, even for the Saints, on the back half of the schedule. But all right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. Let's talk about X factors. This may be, we'll see how I feel coming out of the bye. This may very well be the last X factor segment we do this season. It feels even foolish to do it now, but this is a preview episode. And so we'll talk about the matchup as if it matters for at least one more week. Yeah, let's do it. Who dat? Go Saints.
Oh, such black and gold joy there, Jeff.
Stick around. Who dat? And we are back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here alongside Steve Geller. One more game before the bye week. We are officially into the second half of the season. And you could argue that last week was the second half of the season, but I consider when you have a 17-game schedule, 8 games is not the halfway mark. The only logical thing to say would be that halftime of week 9 is the halfway mark, and you cannot consider yourself halfway until that game. So this is the second half of the season. It starts with a game in Carolina. Then you get a bye week. Then you face the Falcons. And we kind of just talked about this going into the back of that segment. So like when I say there's winnable games, like understand that there is not going to be another game on the Saints schedule this year where you should feel like they cannot be competitive in it. There's only one game against the division leader. And there's only one game that you probably feel like the Saints will go into it as, I don't know, touchdown underdogs. And even then, it's a divisional game that should be a little more competitive than, you know, the odds would call it to be, because it's a division game. So you're going to have the Panthers, then you're going to have a bye week to rest up, then you're going to be at home against, you know, if there's anyone, I mean, we can talk about the Saints and how disappointing this season has been for them. We expected this to be a bad season. The Falcons are embarrassing to their fans. The Falcons have not won more than 8 games since 2017. And I don't know about you, it sure looks like they're not going to get to that mark again, despite all of this investment and all of this hype going into the season. So if nothing else, we can be like, sucks to be you. But either way, you're getting the Falcons in week 12. Then you're going to Miami to face the Dolphins. You're going to Tampa, so you're staying in the state of Florida, to face the Bucs. Then you're hosting the Panthers. You're hosting the Jets. And then the final 2 weeks of the season are at the Titans and at the Falcons again. So, like, that is a light schedule. If we started with that schedule, we would be talking about how they had to take advantage of it. Either way, like, that's the second half. So,
yeah, there's nothing in there that you're like, oh, my goodness. You know, the Buffalo game and the LA Rams game is out the picture. And that was definitely the roughest for the black and gold this year. And
yeah, and in hindsight, Seattle was a much better team than I realized.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When I opened up the schedule this season, and they have Rashid Shaheed now. I was able to get someone to trade me Sam Darnold in fantasy, which I appreciated, because he was basically doing me a favor, because I had only one quarterback in a 2 QB league because I was not managing my team well, and I have Kyler Murray, and I just did not pick up Jacoby Brissett. And I tried to trade him Mark Andrews for Jacoby Brissett, and he came back and was like, I'll give you Sam Darnold for Ladd McConkey. And I was like, deal. I'm losing, but I need a quarterback. And I do feel like Sam Darnold's going to have a really strong close to this season. I would have bet Geno Smith, if I'm completely honest. Like if you asked me which of these kind of reclamation project quarterbacks was actually going to deliver in their new digs, I would have guessed Geno Smith. I would have been wrong. So that tells you what it is. But yeah, so Saints, Panthers, let's talk about it. You know, what on X factor on offense, what are you looking at? What do you think is the key to this matchup for the Saints? And keep in mind, like, I don't think you have to win this game, but I do think that you have to be competitive in this game, because like you can go out to LA and say, hey, that's a much better team than the Saints. Like that's a team that should consider themselves a Super Bowl contender, if not favorite, coming out of the NFC. The Panthers are an upstart team. They may or may not make the playoffs. Like, they're going to be a fringe playoff team. Like, you have to be competitive in this game. So how can the Saints do that?
I'm looking at the offensive line right off the bat, just because there's a few, different pieces settling in. Obviously, we know no Eric McCoy anymore. And not to say that Trevor Penning is going to be missed, but it was a consistent, at least he was available. And now it's going to, how is that unit going to advance and help the quarterback and the run game out, even though, man, oh man, Jeff, I don't know what it's going to take for Kellen Moore to run the damn ball.
Yeah, I feel like I'm okay on the left side of the line. I don't think I said this at the beginning of the season. Like, I wasn't convinced that Trevor Penning was the best left guard option you had. And as it was playing out, like, he had a decent start. Like, I feel like he played pretty well in Buffalo. He was okay against the Giants and the Patriots. He really fell off a cliff the last few weeks, especially in that Rams game. He was just getting toasted. And it just wasn't working. And that's a big reason you weren't able to run the ball. Like, he was getting driven into the backfield, and that's where you needed him to be an asset, and he wasn't. So I think the left side of the line might get better with Dylan Radins in there, and I don't know for sure. We'll have to see. But I thought he was playing pretty well early on when he was forced to start, with Trevor missing the first 3 weeks of the season. So we do know what he's going to look like. That's the benefit of going to Radins, is we've seen him in there. It's not I wonder. Austin Richards, on the other hand, the only game he started was in Seattle, and it did not go well. So don't expect to see Fuaga play. He was in a walking boot. It's a high ankle sprain. You got a bye week coming up next week. If he bucks the odds and gets back quickly, it's going to be 2 weeks. And it's probably going to be longer than that if it's a high ankle sprain. We did see Cesar Ruiz come back and beat the timeline on his high ankle sprain. So it is possible, but that's definitely not going to be the case this week. And so, yeah, Awesome Richards. So you're now looking at an offensive line of Kelvin Banks, Dylan Radins, Luke Fortner, Cesar Ruiz, and Awesome Richards, which if I told you that was going to be your starting offensive line going into the season, we would have said, red alert, this is a massive problem. The only thing that I'll say positively in that regard, the Panthers are not a good pressure team. We talked about this. Like, they're at the bottom of the league in sacks, in quarterback pressures. They don't get off the line particularly fast. And part of that is they're dedicated to stopping the run. They also run a lot of light boxes. So, they're playing a lot of zone. I think they sit back in zone 84% of the time. And so their hope is that you're just not going to be able to take advantage of the soft spots in zones. And, when that works, it works. The Packers decided we're going to wear these ugly helmets. And I think losing last week was a lot more about the karma for that decision than necessarily the Panthers being a better team than the Packers. But they did find a way to go win that game. So this is a team that's finding ways to win. The Saints are a team that's finding ways to lose.
Yeah, that's sadly been the main story of this team. It's like, just when you think you've seen it all from the Saints, it's like, oh, now we're just going to completely be devoid of time of possession and not even get a real true gauge. I feel still of Tyler Shough. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to this game is more of the rookie and what we're developing here.
Yeah, and so you mentioned running the ball. Like I think the Saints need to start adopting a lot of times you say, hey, we want to run the ball to pass the ball. We want to run the ball to set up the pass game, set up the play action. Go watch how the Rams did things last week. They didn't do that.
No.
They didn't run the ball to pass the ball. They passed the ball to run the ball, and that is an option. And I think the Saints should heavily consider it because coming out and trying to run the ball on first and second down on the first possession of the game, it's just been setting up 3 and outs. So I don't know. Maybe this is a scenario where you try the other way. But no, Tyler Shough is the X factor, right? He's going to be the X factor in every game the rest of the season. And it's not even necessarily like, he has to play perfect. It's that I want to see him continue to improve. I think when you go back and you watch the tape from that second half, when you factor in, hey, he just didn't have the ball, there were some nice moments. And you appreciate how he's going through his progressions, the reads he's making. The touchdown throw was really impressive. We talked about this on the mini episode, and he told us this, so we know this should be true. The play was designed to go to Devon Bailey, who's the isolated player on the front side of the progression. They doubled it. Chris Olave gets doubled on the other side. He's the second in the progression. So neither of those are there. And he's able to get through both of those reads quickly enough to avoid Byron Young, who's screaming off the edge, and get the ball to Juwan Johnson, who's not even a player that play is designed to go to. It's just a reaction to the coverage. And being able to do that and do it quickly is why you had a touchdown there instead of a sack and likely a field goal. Those are the type of plays that you just watch and you're like, wow, a nice throw. And then you kind of figure out what was supposed to happen and how the quarterback adjusted. And you're like, okay, that's a high level quarterback play. You see scrambles, you see plays made off of scrambles, which is something we just have not seen, at least from a downfield passing situation to this point in the season. And that's a positive. So I need to see him continue to build on that. And frankly, you need to extend drives. Right? You cannot live in tempo. You cannot live in the hurry up. You need to be able to stack first downs, let your defense rest. And then the defense is a whole nother part of the equation. We'll get to that. But whether you take the ball first, whether the Panthers get the ball first and you just have to get on the field and make something happen, you need to extend a drive early in the game. If you can get an extended drive for points early in the game, you can get a lead, you can play with a lead, you can build some confidence. I think you can go out and win this game. If it is another game where you just sit there, play from behind the entire way through, constantly push that boulder up the hill and then have it roll back down your face, you're just not going to win games that way. So that's what I'm hoping. And that's the X factor to me. If Tyler can come out and that first 15 play script can hit and you can get downfield, you can build some confidence, that's the way you win this game.
The opening script, they would their 3 first possessions. I still think they didn't get through the entire script.
No, and I do think at a certain point you just throw it in the trash. But hey, you got to be better. And Yeah. So that's the thing. And I feel like Tyler handled the situation as well as you could hope. Like, yes, it would have been nice to see some more production there early in the game, but it didn't go well. And you kind of continue to see him be the same guy, right? And that's important for a young, and I know he's 26, but he's still a rookie quarterback in his first career start. It would have been very easy for that game to get away from him. And it did get away, but like, you got the ball back with a minute left and you need to drive. You need something positive to happen. And he just calmly executes, takes a massive hit to that like, he said that the one that got flagged for roughing Byron Young just took him right in the jaw. And he couldn't close his jaw for like 3 days. He had to get like needles in his jaw because like TMJ or whatever. And so he was dealing with that in the second half. And he just like, and again, like, you can say, hey, they didn't possess the ball. Well, he didn't fumble. Like all he did was complete a pass over the middle of the field, get that drive going, and then immediately the ball was taken away from him, and he didn't see it again for like 8 more minutes. Yeah. So like, I just think if this Saints offense needs to go up to Carolina and show something, prove that it has a pulse, prove that it can exist, and if it can do that, and you can continue to build in the right direction, I think that's positive. And frankly, like, and I've said this, and I've been on this all year, and that's why I get kind of frustrated now, because it's like the Devon Vele trade was not this catastrophic decision that the Saints made. The Devon Vele trade was the first in a series of decisions that now creates an opportunity for Devon Vele to be a featured player in your offense. And so how does that develop? Because I think the tandem works a lot better with Chris Olave, Devon, and then Brandon Cooks is your slot receiver. And I think Tyler Shough and Brandon Cooks have a really nice connection, and I think that's one of the reasons that you kept him around, because you want that veteran wide receiver to help a young quarterback. I also think it's interesting that Devon Vele and Chris Olave have very similar names. So you can call them the Chris Olave or Devon Velave.
I'm just hoping that too, Jeff. I keep waiting for Alvin Kamara to be Alvin Kamara or do Alvin Kamara things, because he is still that centerpiece that I would think your best player on offense, and we're just not seeing much of anything in definitely the running game, and definitely not in the receiving game. Yeah,
well, I will say that he does traditionally play pretty well against the Panthers, or at least he did last year. He had 155 rushing yards in that game.
So I'll take it
in the Dennis Allen swan song. So I don't know. Maybe that's a building that he's comfortable in. I don't know. Audric Estime is on the active roster now. Will he be active?
I would think you have to, huh?
Well, they haven't. They've only had 2 running backs active each of those 2 weeks. So clearly they don't feel like it's a necessity to have that third running back. But I remember the Saints-Panthers game a few years ago where you only had a couple running backs, and it was Jamal Williams and Tony Jones Jr. And the end of that game was Jamal got hurt, and it was the Tony Jones Jr. show, and you actually won that game. Tony Jones Jr. ran for 2 touchdowns. But I don't think that's what you want. And I think he got claimed by the Cardinals, like he was on the practice squad. So you had a practice squad player in that situation. But either way, that's it. Defense.
And any of the running backs, please, let me see anything get going. I don't care.
Yeah, we're at the point in the season where there's no bad ideas.
No.
Let's just see what happens.
Right.
Defensive side of the ball, which I think the defense is just as concerning as the offense. And but because there's no quarterback on defense that you have to figure out whether you need a new one or not, it gets kind of swept under the rug. The defense was the bigger issue in that game, in my opinion. Like, both sides of the ball were issues, but the defense was what made you have 0 chance in that game.
Well, yeah, it was like slice and dice, 8-yard chunk, 11, 15, 9, and it just methodical precision drives going down for touchdowns was brutal.
The Rams got whatever they wanted anytime they wanted.
Yeah.
But so what is your X factor on defense? What do you need to see differently on defense? Like, what are you looking at?
I guess don't let Rico Dowdle look like Rico Suave. I mean, and I know that hasn't been the most easy thing of late with him. I just was trying to make a funny, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not sure that works, though, because I want Rico Dowdle to look like Rico Suave. If he looks like Rico Dowdle, then he's looking good.
I guess he's been Rico Suave, though.
Not really.
Whatever,
it sounds better, but it doesn't logically make sense.
when you look at things with the Saints and Panthers squad, a lot of the numbers are very similar, except for the success in the run game. And right now, that's definitely all been Dowdle. I don't know what happened to Chuba Hubbard, who was definitely the guy to start the season for them, and now Dowdle's just taken over that role.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your sentiment. I just don't agree with the metaphor you chose or the language you chose, which is like, I want to make Rico Dowdle look like Uncle Rico, over the hill and through the woods and whatever. But no, like that is the answer. It's you have to limit the run game. Now, if Rico Dowdle doesn't play and you get Chuba Hubbard, that's an advantage. But Chuba Hubbard's a good player too. Like they have two good running backs, and I don't think the answer is Chuba. Like there's a problem with Chuba. I think Rico Dowdle's just been playing so well that you have no choice. Like he took the choice away from the Panthers and said, you have to play me because I am playing so above and beyond good that, even though you paid Chuba Hubbard, like you have to play me. And so, yeah, I mean, the Saints need to stop the run. They need to get after Bryce. Like I disagree with Dez just in the sense that like, I don't think that Bryce Young is playing at such a high level that like he's going to be the difference in this game.
Right.
He threw for 100 yards last week and had like one of the worst interceptions you'll find. Like, yeah, the wind blew it. Okay. If the wind's blowing your pass 8 feet to the left, that's on the passer. It's not on the wind. It wasn't a hurricane. And so like if Bryce Young beats me, I'll live with it. Right. I need to force Bryce Young to beat me, and I need to make him uncomfortable. And how I do that is by stuffing the run and getting after him. And I do think that Chase Young has played well. It's one of the few things I look at on this defense and say it's been working is Chase Young has been generating pressure and he's been getting off the line quickly. So and how do you force Bryce Young to beat you too? Like you get out to a lead and you force the Panthers to do uncomfortable things. They want to sit back and control the clock and beat you the same way the Rams did, which is with 10-play drives, getting first downs on third downs, third and shorts that you can just run for. Like that's how they want to beat you, and that's how they've won games. I need to get out to a lead. I need to force that offense to actually get outside of its comfort zone. And so however you do that is however you do that. But if the Panthers run for 150 yards between Chuba and Rico, you lose the game. I think it's that simple.
Shoot, Rico's been doing that on his own, as you know.
Right. Well, I mean, last week I think they combined, like, what was it? What was the Carolina Green Bay? Yeah, I mean, they combined for 147. If you had Bryce Young in there, you had Jimmy Horn with his one run. They're about 150. Like, I need them to be in the range of 100 maximum, or like I don't think you win this game. If they're averaging 5 yards a carry, I don't think you win this game. If they're winning the time of possession by more than a minute, I don't think you win this game. There's a lot of things, but it all starts, like, I think you're 100% right. It all starts with making Rico Dowdle look like Rico Suave. I'm gonna retcon your own take.
I just think it's amazing that the Cowboys gave up on this dude too, and we heard Dez mention the fact that he's back home and he sure is looking like he wants to be like that Carolina legend right now. But he's going to end up getting paid, and I don't know if the Panthers are going to do that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is Kellen Moore knows Rico Dowdle pretty well. Like, he coached him back in 2021 and 2022. So who knows? Maybe the team that pays Rico Dowdle is the Saints. Because I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. Because, like, people all the time want to say, like, the Saints are in cap hell. The Saints have these cap constraints that they can't manage. It's just not true. Like you're going to look at the number and you're going to say they're in a bad cap situation. The fact is they can do whatever they want to do, right? It's just a matter of whether they choose to do it. Like, they can free up $100 million in cap space pretty easily for next season if they choose to do it. So if you see a guy that you want to go out and get and you feel like is a guy that will benefit you for the next 4 or 5 years, then you can afford to pay guys. Because again, like, and I say this a lot and people never seem to be able to wrap their head around it. you are not paying a quarterback. And you will not be paying a quarterback for the foreseeable future, right? Even if you decide, hey, we're going to go draft a quarterback number 1 overall, that contract is like $11 million. And then that's locked in for 4 years plus the team option, right? So you're going to be clearing cap space, cap hits. This next year, you're going to have to eat Derek Carr. You're going to have to eat Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Taysom Hill, assuming those guys aren't on the roster. But beyond that season, you're free and clear. So it's just a question of how you choose to operate. So next year, like, don't be shocked if they go out and they pay a running back. They have not been very good at drafting running backs. At a certain point, you just need to be like, why? Like, we can figure it out. And maybe Rico is that guy. How old is he?
27.
Yeah, it might be a little old to pay a running back. But my point stands. Like,
I guess too, where this Saints team is right now, it wouldn't end up being beneficial.
No, but I mean, if it's a 2-year contract and you're looking at it and saying whatever, like, my point is, this is a Saints team that's going to be able to make decisions, and it's not going to be about, we can't afford to pay this player. Now, I do think that they're going to end up extending Alontae Taylor, because the conversation is no longer, do you pay Alontae or do you pay Rashid? Alontae is really the only player that you look at and say, like, okay, do we extend him? Do we not? And the alternative is letting him walk in free agency, which I think if you were going to let him walk, you would have probably shipped him out for whatever you could have gotten for him. I don't know. Like, and I'm not even sitting here saying I expect the Saints to be big players in free agency. I'm just telling you, if they wanted to, they could. My larger point is, people keep wanting to talk about the salary cap with the Saints, and like, I do not see the salary cap as an issue in any way. Like, the salary cap is not the reason the Saints are bad right now. The salary cap won't be the reason the Saints are bad next year. If they want to go pay guys, they could go pay guys. They shouldn't, because that would be a foolish decision, but there's nothing preventing them from doing that. And I don't know how many, it's annoying, because in order to explain that to people, you have to explain like void years and contract restructures and whatever.
Exciting stuff, right?
But like, I need people to understand. Like, who could the Saints have paid over the last couple years?
Trey Hendrickson is the one everyone's pissed off
but
about.
But that's not even, like, that was like 4 years ago.
Right.
Like, that's not like, I'm talking about, like, people seem to think that the salary cap is the reason the Saints are bad right now. And it's like, so if they had paid Caden Ellis, you think this team would be better? If they had paid David Onyemata, you think this team would be better? I mean, like, who, like Marcus Williams? Like, look what Marcus Williams has done. Should they have paid Marcus Williams? The Saints aren't bad because of the salary cap. That is a misconception. The Saints are bad because they haven't drafted.
I do think losing Onyemata definitely hurt in the run defense a lot.
It did, but at the same time, like, should they have paid through the nose to keep David Onyemata? Like, would that?
No, I'm not. Yeah, he's not like this Jesus Christ of run stuffing.
Right, and I like David Onyemata, but the Falcons overpaid him, and that would have been a foolish financial decision given where the Saints were to overpay a 28-year-old defensive tackle. Right, so it's like, I don't know. Like, people seem to think that if you had money over this 2-year stretch, the team would not be in the position they're in. And I think you could have had all the cap space in the world, you would still be in this position.
Yeah, to me, the one that always gets brought up is Trey Hendrickson. Is like, we couldn't re-sign him.
Yeah, well, and the fact is, like, that, yes, okay, 5 years ago, we could talk about that. But if you had signed him 5 years ago, you would have had to pay him again right now. And they could have paid him. They just chose not to. I think, and yeah, that was a mistake. But you were like, hey, we drafted Marcus Davenport. We're going to see what we have with Marcus Davenport.
That's a whole other story. At the end of the day,
right, the issue has been the drafting.
Yeah.
Because if you hadn't drafted Marcus Davenport, maybe you do pay Trey Hendrickson. So I don't know. Like, this is completely off topic, but it's not always everything. Sometimes the answer is actually very simple. And it's like, yeah, if you miss on first round draft picks 4 out of 5 years, you're gonna be bad. You're gonna be bad. And that's what the Saints are. It's really not more complicated than that.
Yeah, so much sad wreckage post draft, and you think about all those picks that are just wasted now. Those first round picks that are wasted. Forget even, second, third rounders.
Yeah, and I mean, just run through them, right? So you're talking about from 2018 on. So obviously you got Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk in 2017. That's fantastic. 2018, Marcus Davenport, and that's 2 first-round picks. So you didn't even have one in 2019. Eric McCoy was a great draft pick. He was a second-rounder. Cesar Ruiz is an example of, wow, what a draft success relative to the rest of them. Like, and I'm not telling you to be super excited about Cesar Ruiz. I'm just telling you, in the grand scheme of things, that is a successful pick for what the Saints' standards have been.
Wow.
Peyton Turner.
Boo.
Trevor Penning and Chris Olave. So over from 2018 to 2022, the wild success stories for the Saints in the first round have been Chris Olave and Cesar Ruiz. And I'm not telling you they've been great. I'm telling you the other players have been so bad and or useless that it's not even worth talking about them. And from then, it seems like you've kind of pulled it back a little bit with Brian Brzee, Fuaga, and Banks. But then you're looking at Isaiah Foskey, Kendre Miller, Nick Saldiveri, Jake Haener, second, third, fourth. And then my bigger issue is in 2024 where you didn't have a pick in the third or fourth round. So in the area of the draft where you actually have been reasonably successful, like historically, you didn't have a pick.
Yeah.
So that's where the Saints are, and that's why the Saints are in the mess they are. And people keep getting like worked up about the salary cap and miss the actual issue, which is draft asset management and scouting.
The draft has obviously hurt this team and why they are where they are right now. I mean, that's no brainer.
It is the issue.
Right.
It is staring you in the face, but because the cap is there, people seem to think like we have to blame the salary cap at all times and point to that as the real mismanagement. And it's
at least this past draft, there seems to be some hopeful pieces.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If you had drafted better, you would have been able to manage the cap differently because you would have had players who could replace the players you had. Now, Zach Bond, okay. That's a question of, okay, should you have kept Zach Bond? Yeah, but they didn't lose Zach Bond because they wouldn't pay him. They lost Zach Bond because they wouldn't play him.
Preach on that one for sure.
Like they tried to sign Zach Bond. He said, "I'm going to go somewhere where they'll play me." So hey, again, not salary cap.
I'm gonna go get me a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's it. That's the podcast. And again, I think we're going to reevaluate over the bye week how I think we might take a few days off with the team and then reevaluate how we want to organize these episodes the rest of the season. Like I think we'll still do the post-game live chats because it'll still be worth talking about what happened in the game, even if the games themselves are kind of irrelevant to the larger picture. But there will be no value in previewing, hey, let's talk about the Falcons. Unless, you know what? It might still be worth having a Falcons reporter on here just so I can talk to them about how shitty that season has gone for them.
I was going to say we can enjoy in their misery.
Yeah, but we won't make it like a full-scale preview. It'll just be let's pound on this guy for a minute.
Let's bash the Falcons.
Yeah, because even at the worst of times, we can still all get together and enjoy a good old Falcons hate session.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some 28-3 shirts made up just so we can mock him even with that.
We'll always have that.
Right.
We'll always have 25-point margins. But all right. We'll keep doing it. We're not going to meow mix you. We're going to stick around. We'll just have to find a way to suffer through it. Either way, who dat? Go Saints. Beat the Panthers. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the Carolina Kitty Cats can't get a win. Let's go.
Meow.
Meow mix.
Meow.